My name's Steve. I'm part of the team here now, so thanks for welcoming me in, and it's so great to be with you this morning if you're online. So nice to have you here today. I'm a very blessed man. I have an amazing wife. Her name is Marama, and she is beautiful, she's intelligent, and she owns an island. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later, because that's all you want to know now. I have 2 kids. My son's name is Tipene. He's 24. He lives in Wellington. I'm so very proud of him. And my daughter, Millie, Amelia, and she is 21 and about to move to Palmerston North this weekend coming. I love her so much, and I'm trying to tell her that I'm not worried about going to miss her, but I love her very much, and today I believe that God wants to speak to us in an amazing way. So we're going to pray. Would you close your eyes for a moment? It says this. We're going to pray. He honore, he kororea ki te atua, he maunga runga ki te whenua, ki whakaro pai ki ngā tangata katoa. In Jesus' name, amen. The verse today is from Luke 20, and verse 20 to 26. And it says this: keeping a close watch on him, the religious leaders, sent spies who pretended to be sincere. They hoped to catch Jesus in something he said so that they could hand him over to the power and authority of the governor. So the spies questioned him. Teachers, we know that you speak and teach what is right, and that you know that you do not show partiality but teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. You've got to be careful when people come to you in flattery, hey? Is it right for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not? He saw through their duplicity and said to them, show me a denarius. Whose image and inscription are on it? Caesar's, they replied. And he said to them, then give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. And they were unable to trap him in what he had said there in public. And astonished by his answer, they became silent. We live in a world that likes conspiracies right now. I think it might have doubled by 1 billion times over COVID, eh? And we also live in a time of image. And really, this verse that we're about to look at this morning talks about conspiracy and image. And I want to encourage us today that when I read the Bible, I'm not sure if you're like me, but when I read the Bible, I always kind of try and read myself into the Bible. So if I read the Bible and it's talking about David and Goliath, I'm David. Yeah, I want to be Goliath, so I choose that. And if it's Jesus walking on water, I'm Peter, not the guys in the boat. You know, I always choose myself into it. And as I read the scripture, I'm a little bit confused because I don't want to be the religious leaders and I'm not Jesus. Hey? I don't want to be the conspiracy guys, but I don't want to be the religious guys, but maybe I am. And maybe the 8:30 were as well. I don't know, because it's not you. But we live in a world of conspiracy and image is becoming more and more powerful, and the thought of labels upon our lives and who we call ourselves and what we call ourselves is faster and bigger than it's ever been before. And I've got to tell you, sometimes I do worry about my image, hey? You know, I used to have black hair and it's gone grey, but that's all right. And but when I met my wife, and when I met Marama, she wasn't my wife then, and we went on this journey, I had to meet the family. And when you meet the family, I don't know about you, but when you meet the family for the first time, you've got to be on your best behaviour, right? And so my wife is from a little island off Tauranga, Mount Maunganui, called Motiti Island. If you stand on Papamoa Beach and you look out, there's a flat little island out there, 10 kilometres offshore. That's where my wife is from. Her father was, and her grandparents were all born on the island and lived on the island, and we go there for holidays. It's awesome. But at the first time I flew out there, you can go on boat, but we flew out on a little 4-seater plane, landed in this paddock and got out. I had to have an image, you know. I want to be part of this family and I want to be part of this island. And so I got to represent a little bit, you know. And so now you may not know, but I'm European, I'm Scottish, French, but where I was mainly Māori and people who were born on the island lived on the island, fished on the island, dived on the island, and I was really a town white kid, you know? But I didn't want them to know that. So I was like, every time I was so scared, I just pretended like I was just out there, oh, yeah. Oh, you do it differently, you know, like I was just like, I don't know. And so I went out there, and while we were there was a funeral that happened, and so there was a ferry that came over with about 30, 40 people on it to come over to that. They came over, and usually they just push the ferry straight up onto this beautiful sandy beach, but this day the weather was wrong, so they had to go to another bay. So we arrive, and this boat arrives, but now it's dark, and the whole island goes down to help get these people off the boat that now can't come in, has to park about 50, 60 meters out, and get into dinghies and bring them onto the stony shore, right? So people start getting into the water to help the boat get these people, full of people, up onto the rocks so that they can come onto the rocks dry and get all their luggage off dry. And it's cold and it's wet and it's dark, and I've got to represent. So I kind of go out there. I don't go right to the end because I don't want to be the guy the deepest out, but I don't want to be the guy that's the nervous, shallow guy, and so I'm kind of in the middle somewhere, and I'm helping out, and there's people with torches, and that's all you can see, and there's nannies, and there's aunties, and there's kids, and we're helping them all out along the way, and we get them up onto the beach, the first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, I don't even know what number we're up to, and at one point, as we're waiting for the dinghy to come in, I feel something on the back of my leg. I think maybe seaweed. I think maybe a plastic bag, hey? And the problem is, as I start to just, I don't want to make a scene. I'm trying to impress. I've got this image that I'm trying to portray that my father-in-law won't think I'm a wimp, and the more I do it, the tighter it gets. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what's going on? I'm going to play it cool. And my voice is going up, and I'm panicking a little bit. And then so the dinghy comes in, and we pull it up. And as we come up, I go from like this much in water to like this much in water. And I see on the back of my leg right here is an octopus. And I'm thinking about my image that I'm trying to portray, and I'm thinking, if I lose it now, forever, I'm called Ocky Boy. Hey, Ocky Steve, how you doing? Hey, now, if I panic, I'm going to be mocked forever. And if I let this thing go, they're going to ask me where dinner went. Like I'm in trouble. And so I kind of like I'm just cool. I'm cool. And we get back into the water, and I don't know if you've ever tried to get rid of an octopus. They're not easy. Hey, but I think he just thought he was on a little stick. This little stick here, and he just helped me out, and he floated off, and I was like, I think I did one more load, and I was out. I'm gone. But I was worried about my image. And we live in a world that we worry about our image. And we live in a world that where there's conspiracies, and we're trying to show something to everybody, and we see this verse. And I don't know about you, but I think God might get me in this verse. Because he said, Steve, you're worried about all of these things. But the reality is, give Caesar what's Caesar's and give God what's God. And then I ask the question, what do I need to give God? What do I need to give God? We have labels, we have images, but the bigger question is, whose are you? Who do you represent? And who do you reflect? Who do you honor and serve with our lives? See, this story is about people coming to trap Jesus. And Jesus is there, and he hears the question that he has, and he knows that they're trying to pull a fast one on him. And so he says to them, he says, hey, to the Pharisees and to the Sadducees, I don't know, but just a quick breakdown. Dr. Reverend over here would know so much more than me, Michael, but a Pharisee's idea is that they are religious. Oh, sorry, that's just a little joke that we have. I call him Dr. Reverend. He doesn't really like it. He just says it's Michael, but he is a doctor and he's a pastor, so. But the Pharisee is religious, and he's a revolutionist at heart. He doesn't want to come under the rule of the Romans, And so therefore he wants to take down the oppressor. And the Sadducees, they're religious, but they don't believe in resurrection, so they're a little bit more likely to make things work because they've only got one life. Does that make sense? And so Jesus comes into this, and he knew that they were trying to trap him with a question. Either corner him as a revolutionist, and then he would be captured by the Romans, or otherwise he would be someone who would break Jewish law, and so therefore he would lose his followers. I want you to understand is that Jesus likes questions. In fact, I reckon half of my prayer life is questions. I'm always asking him questions. And he doesn't push me away. He doesn't. In fact, he likes questions. And the way that you would understand a disciple and a rabbi of the time was not what they knew, but the questions that they asked. So Jesus likes questions. But he likes sincere questions. And so when they asked him this question, he knew it was a test. And Jesus had grown in wisdom and stature and favor with both God and man. We know that. And so when they started to test him, he came up with an answer. So Jesus, realizing what was happening, asked, "Show me a denarius whose image and inscription are on it." I think it's funny because there was somebody, I'll pick on you for a second, Michael, but there was somebody who asked the question, and then he said, "Oh, does anyone have a denarius?" And then someone of the religious leaders had one in their pocket. Oh, we shouldn't use those, we shouldn't be part of that, but then they had one. And then they pulled it out, and they all knew what was on it. And on one side of it was a picture of Tiberius Caesar. He was the adopted son of Augustus Caesar, who was the adopted son of Julius Caesar. Maybe a message for another day, but they were adopted into this reign. And on one side it had a picture of him, and it said the Son of God. And on the other side of it, it had an inscription, another picture, and an inscription that said the Great High Priest. And the people of the time, as they asked the question, they were saying they thought that this was an idol. It had a man's face upon it with the inscription, the Son of God and the Great High Priest. In Jewish law, we understand, says the first commandment is to have no other idols. And they were saying, what do you think about this idol? What should we do about that? And Jesus says, well, who's on it? And they say, well, it's Caesar. And they say, and he says, well, if it's Caesar's, give it back to him. But then he adds to it. And he says, but what's God's, give to God. Do you realize God often does that? He kind of asks one question, but then he makes it a way harder question. Pay your tax? Yes. At Activate Church, we believe in paying tax. But there's a bigger question. Do you live a life of giving your life back to the one who gave it to you? There's a bigger question going on. There's power in the question. There's an image and there's an inscription. Caesar Tiberius, he's a son of God and the great high priest. If I was Jesus at that moment, I'd lose my cool and I'd crush that thing and say, I'm the only one. Not like you, not like anyone else here. Obviously nobody online would be like that at all. And he said to them, give back to Caesar what is Caesar and to God's what is God's. And Jesus answered their question and adds a question. He does it often. When people said to him, what's the greatest commandment? He says, well, the greatest commandment is to love God, but also linked to that you can't break it apart, is love people. They just wanted one, and he gave them two. He's pretty much saying, you can't love God and not love people. If you love God, your outworking of your life has to be loving people. Like the more you pray, the more God shows you people. You with me? And I want you to understand today that Jesus took something that they were trying to make it small, and he would say, hey, come on, let's make this about your life. If you love God, then love people. You know, here at Activate, we love God, and we love people. Even the guys that come to the 8:30. We love God, and we love people. So much so that we have Activate groups, which is where you can learn about God with other people. Wow, that's amazing. It might even be biblical. If you're not in an Activate group here, you're missing out on the best part of Activate. It's not just what happens on a Sunday, but what happens Monday to Friday. We have them all over the place. You can talk to someone out in the foyer if you're not on one, or you can go online. I checked it out yesterday. Just put your name in there. You can give some details, and they'll let you know of a few different life groups. I don't know who they are, but they will let you know. We will let you know of a life group, Activate group around you that you can connect with. If there's no Activate group that you can connect with, tell us what you'd like to do, and we'll make one. Because we believe in loving God and loving people and doing it together. But in this verse, in Luke 20 and verse 25, Jesus pushes past the trap. He pushes past the revolution. He pushes past the conspiracy. He pushes past the religion. He pushes past popularity. He pushes past political. He pushes past fake. He pushes past the question to ask a question. Do we give God what belongs to God? And so then our question is, do we push past the trap? Do we push past the revolution? Do we push past the religion? Do we push past the popularity, political, fake questions, and actually give God what belongs to Him? After every question we ask of Him, do we then give ourselves to Him? Every time we cry out for help, do we then give ourselves to Him? Every time that we go to Him, and every day and every need, do we then give ourselves to Him? We ask the question, but do we push past? Or are we a conspiracist? Is that a real word? Great, thank you so much. Or are we religious? You know what? I think we might be a little bit more religious than we think. We'll talk about that another day. Rather than focusing on the revolution or the conspiracy at the time, we put our trust and wait and worship in God and ask ourselves, what does it mean to give God what belongs to Him? So if you're God, Jesus is the Son of God, and if you are the great high priest, then we need to give God, if that's what we believe, which we do, by the way, it's not a trick question, then do we give to God what is God's? Do we give God our time? Oh, well, I couldn't have my quiet time because I need my beauty sleep. Well, I do, but I stayed up quite late doing something, so I had to go to work early, so I didn't get my time. My family, we're just in a really busy season at the moment. Said nobody ever. I got to go to the gym early because, I've got to work on this body. And I was just in a real busy time, busy season. My thought life is just not in a good space. I mean, the question is, do we give God what belongs to Him? And what belongs to Him is us. So the question is, it's not about the conspiracy. The question is not about the religious things that we should do. The question is, do we give ourselves to Him? Paul says this is challenging. To the Athens, he says that the people of the time had more than 370 gods. Now, why do I bring this up? It's because what we do is we go, well, the first commandment is we should have no other God. We understand that we do that. And we say, no, I don't have any other God, it's just God. But the thing is, they had 370 little ones, like sneaky ones. Not like the big Caesar one, but like the sneaky ones. Like, here's some of the 370. Don't worry, I'm not going to read them all out. But here's some of them. Some of them were the god of wealth, the god of sex. I asked Sheridan if it was all right to say sex, and he said yes. The god of family, the god of war, the god of crops, the god of fruitfulness, the god of power, the god of peace, and the god of health. And do you know what? Those ones, they're still the little one now. I get so caught up in this little thing, and I'm so worried about this little thing, or I'm so focused on this little thing, that little thing then can become actually where we are giving our due to, rather than giving all back to God. Now, I reckon most of us wouldn't say, oh yeah, I have this a whole other God over there. But the question is, every day we need to ask ourselves, which other little gods are starting to creep up? Which other things are getting into my life where the importance of them is coming up, or the worry about them falling over is going up? They are a signal of those things that are starting to creep up in our lives. We put our weight and trust and hope in Him, not in other things and other outcomes. Give back to God what is God's. He is the only thing we should worship. See, the coin had an image on it, and it had an inscription on it. The question is, what do we worship, and whose is our image? In Genesis 1:26, it says this, then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all creatures that move along the ground. So God created mankind in His own image. In the image of God, He created them. Male, female, He created them. Who are we reflecting? We're meant to be recognized as being like Him. We're meant to be recognized as those who have been with Him. I'm not sure about you, but you see people sometimes, and man, they look so similar. My wife's family, you can just tell their family when you meet them. You don't know their names. Well, you meant to, but when I first met them, I just knew that that's definitely part of her family. That's definitely a cousin or a sister. I'm not even sure yet, because they look so similar. I mean, up here today, we had Sarah leading us so amazingly well, and then her daughter, little Sarah, I call her, who's got a gift and passion for worship, a love for the house of God, because we're actually meant to look like the image that we come from. And the question is, would your family know who God is by looking at you? Would your workplace know that you were created in the image of God? Would your neighborhood have any understanding where you head off to at 10 o'clock on a Sunday because of the way we live the rest of our lives? We're meant to talk like Him. What does that mean? We're meant to have faith and not fear. We're meant to be positive and not negative. We're meant to be encouraging. We're meant to declare hope and declare miracles. We're meant to believe like Him. I am who He says I am. Do you declare daily over your life what He says? If you're struggling here today with worry, anxiety, or fear, this is the number one thing that you need to start changing in your life, is declare what God says over you. If you don't know what God says over you, go and find someone. Go to an Activate group. Go to your leader. Go to somebody and say, hey, what can I start declaring over my life? Because the number one problem with anxiety is people don't know who they are. Or they put a label on themselves, and now they're wondering why they're not lining up to it. But we're not meant to line up with the label someone else puts on us, or that we put on ourselves. God's made us with a label. And the name of that label is the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the one who calls us to be blessed and to increase and multiply and rule and reign. You needed to start declaring. Oh man, I'm getting excited. The inscription over our life should be declared over who you are. The next one, serve like Him. How do we serve the church and the body? This isn't a trick question. Jesus came to serve the church and the body, to serve the people. Oh yeah, I used to do that when I was in my 20s. Used to do that when I had black hair, but I got a bit busy along the way. No, the question is, whose image? Are we using our gifts to feed ourselves or to build something greater than us? That's another message for another day. We need to act like Him. Do we stop for people, pray for people, spend time with people, come down to them? Do we do whatever? Where are we, Jesus, wherever, whenever? Do we give like Him? What is our sacrifice? Where do we go past what is convenient for us? Don't worry, we're not doing an offering this morning. It's all right. My question around giving and sacrificial giving, is this change me tomorrow? Am I different because of what I gave yesterday? Does that make it look different tomorrow? Getting up in the morning to pray and spend time with God. You had to sacrifice going to bed earlier the night before. Don't know if it's actually A plus B equals. Like there's got to be some, are we sacrificing something for this greater good? Move along, guy. Come on. let's get a little bit close to home. So this morning, if I could have the band up, that would be awesome. Could we push past the trap? Could we push past the revolution? Could we push past the conspiracy? Could we push past the religion? Could we push past the popularity, the political, the fake, and the insincere questions, and ask, do I give God all of me? See, we are made in His image, and we were paid for by His image to live for His image. And the question is, will we do that in full? Don't get caught up in the little things that happen. Jesus saw this thing that was claiming to be Him, the Son of God and the great high priest, and He says, hey, you know what's most important? That you live your life the way that you're meant to live your life. I said before, we're all a little bit more religious than we would like to believe. The problem with religion is it bounds us and it causes us to go back to the very thing that was broken in us. Because when Jesus comes, He frees us from that this morning.